Podcast Perawan, podcast kedua with Adrian. Podcast Perawan, podcast kedua with Adrian. Podcast Perawan, podcast kedua with Adrian. Podcast Perawan, podcast kedua with Adrian.
Hi guys, welcome back to my podcast, Podcast Perawan, podcast berdua with Adrian. Before I begin the topic, probably I should state the obvious, why I speak in English now, because this is the special episode in English. And bear in mind, I already know the trolls are gonna be like, oh, Adrian thinks his English is so good. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make mistakes, so please keep in mind, I'm not a native speaker, I'm gonna make mistakes, so fuck off. So before I begin with the topic today, let me introduce my co-hosts. Ladies first.
So my name's Jenny. I'm from the UK, but my parents are born and raised in Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Adrian, must have been 3 years ago, I guess now.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago.
Where we worked together at Zalando. And I actually think it's because I was put into a WhatsApp group that was just called Asians.
Wow, so much for racism. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was me, another Jenny, and I think Hanlin, right?
Hanlin, yeah.
So everyone is Asian looking so you are fresh off the boat. Right. We met during lunchtime at work,
Yeah.
I think.
Exactly, because I think I was really close with the other Jenny, and she obviously knew you and Hugo, your dog.
Oh yes, my dog, yes.
And then she was like, yeah, come join us for lunch, and then, yeah, it was just the beginning.
The rest is history.
Yes, exactly.
And the gentleman.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Yannick. I'm from Germany, from a little village in Germany, and moved 3 years ago to Berlin. I'm Jenny's boyfriend, so...
Oh, right. Oh!
Yeah, so that's how I also know you, like,
Yes.
because it was like one birthday party of one of Jenny's best friends. And, right? Like, yeah.
Was it? No,
Oh,
it
no?
was when...
Leaving.
Yeah, Jenny, the other Jenny
What-
is leaving, or was leaving.
Yeah, not birthday, leaving
Yeah.
drink party, yeah. But that's how we met, and
Yeah.
I got asked to participate in that podcast, and was like, I never did something like this before, but I'm ready for it. So
Great.
here I am, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Right. So keep in mind as well, the three of us, all of us are nervous because this is my first time podcasting in English as well. And I assume it's your first time doing podcasts?
Totally, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we're all podcast virgins apparently. Since you already started talking about your cultural background and whatnot, and we also noticed that Berlin is very multicultural, I was thinking probably it would be interesting to show my audience, oh my god, so pretentious, my audience, how we grew up basically, because to put a label on it, I came fresh off the boat from Indonesia to Germany, and Jenny has an Asian background, but born and raised in the UK, and Yannick's a German guy who was born and raised in a little village in West Germany and then moved to Berlin, so none of us are from Berlin basically. Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood, probably, Jenny? Was it difficult to be a person of color in the UK?
I'm going to say where I grew up, probably yes, because I come from quite a small town.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure, like, when I was in primary school, they did this, like, a survey of where everybody came from in the school. And there was 3 Asian people. That
Oh my
was me,
God.
my brother, and my sister. So that was it. And then I think there was 1 Indian girl, and then everybody else is white, British. So yeah, I mean, then we're like very apparent that we're kind of different, but I guess when you're a child you don't really notice. It's not until you're much older. So my parents were telling me that, like, for them sometimes, like, picking us up from school, some other parents were not so friendly, but for me, I didn't even notice, because I think when you're a kid, like, children don't really notice differences until they're really told there's a difference. So I had a lot of people that just didn't see me as different, and so for me it was a happy childhood.
Okay. So it's it's not as crazy as it was being depicted in like movies and because most of it are in the United States anyway, so I assume it's a little bit different, right?
I'm not really sure about comparison to the US, but yeah, it's not, I think, yeah, when people think it's like really extreme, I guess it's not so extreme.
Okay, so there was not a lot of like racist bullying that you grew up with, or it did happen?
It did happen like time to time, but it wasn't like, it was kind of like one or two guys. It wasn't like the whole school. And then it's like when you move like to like high school or like to college and then university, there's always somebody who says something.
Right.
But like when you move, you always move to like bigger places. So I grew up in a small town, but then went to a slightly bigger one like for college. And then when I went to university, obviously it's very multicultural, and then you're really not the other, you're just a person.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
And what about you? So I assume you were born before the wall came down?
Yeah, like 2 weeks before. So like I don't really have an experience like from to have this like Eastern German, Western German was like not a very topic that affected my life. If somebody mocks on being like from East Germany, I think it's always like people looking for a weak spot. Is it because you have a different skin color? Is it because you wear glasses? Right. Is it because you, I don't know. I have light skin, also too light skin. Yeah, I mean, can also be like. But okay, I think people just try to look for a weak spot, right, and it often doesn't really has a racistic background. It's just like because they're unconscious about it.
Right. And how multicultural was it in your little town? Was it a city or a town?
No, it was a little town. Like it had like roughly 800 inhabitants. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's like really small. So like when I was a small kid, there were still like the horses like pulling the wagons with like.
Are you Amish?
No, like of course there were like cars, but like some old farmers, they still had their horses, and like my neighbors were like putting like the new on the foot of the horses, I don't know, on the hooves, on the hooves. I'm taking care of this. So that was like when I was really small, and then when I grew up, like already when I was like 12, it changed already a lot. So these old people died, and then you see that just a change comes because like the children then change the purpose of the ground they use. Right. They build houses to rent, or you also we had a little kiosk, but just not enough people go there. Then you have a big supermarket in the next city, and so people just drive there.
Okay.
But on the same side, when I was young, like the last bus that came home or drove away was at 6 p.m. So pretty much you couldn't do anything. Like you had to be home very early.
Right. So you have to pay attention. Oh shit! The last bus is leaving now. Whoops,
yes, exactly. And so when I turned like 16 or 17, they changed it so it drove until midnight, and so that also gave you much more options.
Okay, and what is the closest city?
It's Frankfurt.
Okay.
So and that's a really nice thing about the area, because you have Frankfurt like a 30-minute car ride away, or like 1 hour by bus and train. So it's actually quite close, and you have the big city life, so to say. Right. But you have very decent and quiet life in the villages around it.
Okay. And speaking of growing up, what interests me the most is the food. Because I remember when I grew up, my parents only strictly cooked Indonesian food. I think 90% of the time. Sometimes they did cook some spaghetti, but Indonesianized in a way, or steak, but using soy sauce as the sauce. So it's really Asianized, bastardized version of Western food, basically. And how about you when you grew up?
Mine, I have to say, is pretty much the same.
Okay.
So, for example, if my dad decides he wants to have steak, it's steak with rice and then some like broccoli or something. And he's like, yeah, but where's the chips? And he's like, no. He's like, a meal is not a meal without rice. Which I just, like, I guess growing up, you don't actually really realize. But then, so every day, my parents also only cook Chinese food.
Right.
Because my dad just well, he really hates English food, actually. So yeah, I mean, I remember once when I was still in primary school, and I was playing with some friends on the weekend, and then they said, oh, I'm gonna go in for Sunday dinner, and I was like, what's Sunday dinner? And then I think at that time I was like 8 or 9 years old, and they were like shocked. They were like, what do you mean you don't know what Sunday dinner is? We have it every Sunday. I was like,
Yeah, no shit, Sunday dinner.
So then she was like, oh, I'm going to ask my mom if you can come around, like, then to stay for Sunday dinner. Let's call your parents.
Right.
And I remember calling my mom, and she was like, yeah, sure, that's not a problem. And then when I went home, my mom was like, yeah, but what was it like? Were the vegetables just, like, boiled to death? Were they just, like, really soggy? And I was like, it was nice. I mean, when you're a child and you try new stuff, I think it's, like, fine.
Right. It's something different. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's always interesting.
Yeah.
And what about you?
Yeah, like I grew up with a like German kitchen. Like my grandparents were hunters, for example. We also ate like what they hunted, like sometimes.
Wow.
So that was really cool, like for a kid, because you really see like also have a relation to like food itself, like not just eating like from the supermarket when it's already in a package.
Yeah.
But you already see what you eat at the end.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And also in the village, it's very nice with the old people. They often like bring you like stuff they make because they make a lot for their family, and then it's too much. And so we often got like jam or like cakes or something or some meat they prepared. So that's really nice. Sometimes though, it's if they make it in the jam in glasses of old gherkins with onions, then the jam smells like onion, and then you think like, oh no, all the work. It's like so sad because it really just smells of onion. Yeah. But yeah, that's how with things you have to live with. Yeah.
It's different. Yeah.
Gherkin jam.
But it's not, I didn't know. Okay, so hunters. Basically, what kind of animals that they hunted? Like deers and
Deers,
rabbits?
yeah. The foxes we cannot eat, but then the wild pigs. I don't know how you
Wild
call it.
boars.
Wild
Oh,
boars, yeah.
yum.
And yeah, it's really delicious. Yeah. And
Wow. And what about the lunch culture in your childhood like? When I grew up, we had 2 breaks in between. So we went to school from 7 until 4 or 5, depends. And there were 2 breaks in between. The first one was only 15 minutes, and the second one was half an hour. So it was long enough to go to the cafeteria or canteen and to eat and then go back again, but not long enough for you to, I don't know, have a full course meal. And since I'm on the heavier side of my body type, I always want to eat something more substantial. And if I want to eat something more substantial, meaning that I have to pay twice for double the portion, right? So I always told my parents, like, please, I want to bring something from home. So they always pack me lunch, and then I got bullied in the beginning. And they're like, oh, look at Adrian, what a mama's boy, ha ha. And I'm like, okay, have fun with your overpriced, under-seasoned rice chicken, bye. And because of that, I didn't care, so I was just eating, and then they realized, okay, it's actually not so bad. And then they started asking, like, what do you got there? Oh, I got this, I got that, I got curry, I got what? And then they're like, wow, it's actually fun. Up to a point, I think the peak was almost everyone in my class had something, so we ate together and we just switched, like, ooh, let me try that curry. Ooh, let me try that stir fry. So it was really fun at the end. Yeah. And what about you guys? How was the lunch culture in school?
I guess it depends which school you're talking about. Like
Right.
when I was in primary school, so then when you're much younger, we used to have paid school dinners. So every Monday, your mum would give you some money. And then I remember you had to stand in a queue, you give the money to your teacher, then they give you like 5 little vouchers, one for every day. And then there you could get, like, you had like this little tray that was divided into little sections, and then it's like a lunch lady would serve, you get a choice between, say, you know, like these potato smiley faces, which I loved.
It's fried, right? Is it fried or baked?
They're like put in the oven.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and then you get like these little, like chicken nuggets, but shaped like dinosaurs.
Oh, cute.
And then like some peas on the side, and then you had one section that was like for your dessert, so it could be like a sponge cake with some custard.
Okay.
I think that was before they started re-looking at how the UK like school dinners were, because they said wasn't nutritional enough. But I mean, I really liked it.
Well, that was not the point. It could be tasty, but not
So
nutritional.
tasty. And then my mum said that when I got older, when I like went to high school, that I said I don't want to have school dinners anymore because I didn't think it was like cool enough, because it was like everyone brought packed lunches.
Oh, so it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But then it was kind of a mix. But the packed lunches there is definitely doesn't sound as good as the Indonesian one. Ours is just like a sandwich, a packet of crisps, and a piece of fruit.
Ah, okay.
But everybody sat together, so it's quite nice.
I think that's what makes it tasty, right? The sitting together and just like sharing, and yeah, I think the experience what makes it tastier.
Yeah, for me it was like more. First of all, like school starts at 7:30 in the morning, so I had to get up at like 6 and take the bus at 6:30 to get there.
Oh, right, the bus, I forgot.
Yeah, exactly. Like you already drove early in the morning, but yeah, not late. So yes, my mom always made me like little breads to take for the little breaks in the morning between the two classes, and then but classes finished mostly around 1. So I came home, and my parents are both opticians. Okay. So they have their own shop. So they always came home for lunch break. So either my mom was at home already, but my dad always came home for the lunch break, and then afterwards drove back to the office to work. So we always had like a lunch together. I think that's something also really nice to have a good, like, to just talk a bit as a family.
Right.
Because yes, that was always really nice until like I guess 15 or something. Then school goes longer. Then I just come home. Sometimes just snack something at the cafeteria. And like pizza slices and iced tea, like not very healthy stuff. But but what you like when you're a teenager.
Right. And is the food for lunch different than the food from dinner? Or is it just leftovers, or it's completely something else?
Like lunch is always warm in Germany. Like for lunchtime, you eat like something like the biggest portion principally of the day. And in the evening, it's like bread with then sausages and cheese, something like this, but nothing special, and a yogurt maybe, like, but nothing big. Like you normally don't eat warm. That's what I changed now, because now I also eat warm in the evening often, but it's actually not so good for you. So I also tried to change it back, but it's so delicious to eat twice warm. So, yeah.
Oh my God, is it like that in the UK as well?
No. I like to eat warm food all the time.
Yes, me too.
I guess like for us, the packed lunch is the cold one, because it's just sandwiches and and then you eat the warm meal with your family.
Well, generally speaking, in Indonesia we eat almost always warm. So in the morning for breakfast, because what I realize here, people eat like bread and cold cuts, cold meats, cheese. In Indonesia, the first thing in the morning, very typical, is fried rice. That's like fried rice or fried noodle or something soupy, a porridge, rice porridge, a congee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's very common as well. So it's already heavy in the morning, and then probably around 10, you snack a little. It's like mostly fried stuff. And then at lunch, you eat, again, another, like, warm meal. And then in between, around 3, you eat something light, but also warm. Mostly fried as well. And then again, in the evening, also fried. And huge portion. So I'm not sure what the biggest one is, because I think they're all the same. Usually, we eat the same thing. Like in my household, because my mom and my dad, they are both working. So when the mates are not around, we just eat the same thing over and over again. And I'm not the complaining type, as long as it tastes good. So, yes, please. Speaking of which, about parents, the rules and expectation of what they had. Because the stereotype is for Asians, it's always like overachieve something and blah, blah, blah. My parents are not like that. I mean, in a way, yeah, they're like, okay, do your best and whatnot, but they're not too strict about it. And the expectation, I think, yeah, it's slightly higher compared to my white friends, if I might say so, for my German friends. Because my parents once told me we are still focusing more on the hunger on our stomach. And for developed countries, the people are more focused on the hunger on their brain and on their soul. So because of that, because we're still hungry on our stomach, we have to find a way to make money the best way. So you have to work hard and basically earn money. And that's the only expectation from my parents. What about you?
I guess because my parents are still Asian, that also it's kind of the expectation that they, when they moved to the UK, they also worked like really hard, and they said, you know, we work really hard to give you a better life so that you don't have to struggle, that you can really concentrate on your education to get a good job, and then you can be like living comfortably.
Right.
So I guess as a kid, it was a lot of focus on like trying to get us to achieve in something, or like I remember my mom made us do like a lot of extracurricular activities. Like I did gymnastics, swimming, like life-saving courses like in the pool. I did taekwondo. I played the violin. I played the recorder. On Saturdays I used to have to go to like a string group like Saturday morning. And then when I was like 16, I had to get a job, like to earn my own money as well. So it was a lot of like, you always had to be doing something. I don't think they ever explicitly said like, you must do this, but it kind of felt like you should be doing it.
Right.
And I guess education probably played the most importance. I remember actually when I did my GCSEs, I did 11 GCSEs. So that's like the end of high school, so when like you're 16, and I'm the youngest of 3. And I remember calling my mum when I got the results, and I was like, oh, hey mum, like I got 6 A stars, 5 A's, 1 B. And she was like, oh, 1 B.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what? I was like, did you not hear the rest? And she's like, yeah, but what's this 1 B in? And I was like, oh my God, like really, of all the things, like just... And I was like, also, I did way better than my brother and sister.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, but I thought you would get all A's. I'm like,
oh my God. Get the belt. Bend over. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I mean, I think there is a certain level of expectation that they have.
Right.
Only comes out sometimes, like in these moments. But most of the time, actually, they're quite, I would say, relaxed, and they've become more chill, I think, because they've been living abroad.
More westernized.
Yes, they've become more westernized, more liberal.
Oh my gosh. Cool. And what about you?
Yes, I think my parents always like, for them it was important that I did what I did good. But I still if I did it good, then I also had a lot of freedoms. Like, and I'm the younger I have a bigger sister. She's 5 years older than me. I think my parents were way stricter with her than with me. But that also shapes your character in the end. Like, I think I really like to dive into situations where I don't know what comes out in the end, because I have I always had the freedom to do spontaneous stuff. Still, I had a dog, and my parents worked also a lot, so I also took care of the dog a lot. So like being at home, like taking it for a walk, like going somewhere with them. Like when you have a dog, you cannot just go somewhere with friends and just leave her behind. It's like part of your family. And that's also how I experienced it. And I think at school, good results, like don't fall behind. Like in the German school system is like when you don't get certain grades, then you have to repeat one class. Like, so you have 13 years normally at school, but if you're too bad, you have to do 14 years or 15 years. And if you like fall down twice, then you have to leave school and go to a lower education grade. So and that's what you don't want to do. So if I would have failed, then I would have like a way harder life. But that was also always for me like, okay, I want to fulfill it, do my job good, and then I also have a lot of chances to do whatever I want to do. And I think that's important for everyone, that you do what you're supposed to do right, and then just do what you love.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, as long as you do good, you can, have freedom. And I'm like, well, you have to do good because it's your job. I also remember when I grew up, I asked for more pocket money. And my mom was just laughing, like, what do you mean more money? This is not a job. You can't just ask for a raise. I'm like, yeah, Mom, please. Like, prices are getting more expensive now. I can't even afford like a simple meal now at school. And she's like, you know what? Then you have to earn it. So I remember I told my mom that the kids are impressed with my food at school. So she's like, well, you said the kids are impressed with your food at school, right? Well, then start selling them. Like, what do you mean? I will help you. I will help you cook. And you basically distribute the food at school. And it's order-based. So let's say 6 people ordered, and then we will make 6 food. And then let's see. And in the beginning, it was just 5 friends, my closest one. And then it started to become 20, and then 30. And then somehow it's like a full-blown business. I was making serious money. And my mom was like, oh my God, the monster I created. Oh, yeah, that's how I became good at selling. And also, at the end of the year, when the parents had to pick up the report card at school, my teacher I think he was trying to say something to my mom, but my mom was a tough lady. She's like, don't play with me. So he introduced the topic by saying like, so before you leave, I wanted to say something about the business that Adrian has, the food selling business. And then my mom started yapping like, oh yeah, because I want to teach him that earning money is not easy, so he has to earn it and blah, 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 blah. And the teacher was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And then my mom was like, okay, you know what? I got to go because we have another plan. So thank you. See you. So we just leave. And I was like, when we were walking home, I told my mom, I think he wanted to like scold you because it's not allowed to sell food at school. And it's like, I don't know, like child labor or something. And she's like, yeah, I know, shut the fuck up, let's just leave. That's why I started yapping.
She's a smart lady.
I know, a business lady. Since you mentioned school already, and you also mentioned school, how it works, is it slightly different in the UK, the school system?
You mean like if it's the same for everyone, or?
Yeah, because in Germany, I think there's like Gymnasium, and then there's Realschule and Hauptschule, yeah, and...
Oh no, ours is pretty straightforward. Everybody goes through the same process, like you go to primary school up until the age, I think, of 11 or 12. Then you go to high school. Then when you're in high school, they kind of...
Oh, so it's primary and then high school directly?
Yeah. So you have primary school, then high school, and then you have college, if you want to, or sixth form. But in high schools, like the middle stage, they kind of start to separate you in terms of your level. So they get, like, teachers will notice, like, if you are, like, more advanced or less advanced. And I think in our year group, we were split into, I think, 6 different levels. And then you would just be with people of your same level, and then you could, learn together. And then when you're 16, then you take these GCSEs, and that's it in terms of mandatory, like, education. Then it's your choice if you want to go to college to do your A-levels. And then most people actually do the A-levels, or you can do it via a sixth form, which is just an extension of your high school. And then after college, you need to have these 3 A-levels minimum to then get into university. So that's why I think a lot of people do college, just so that they have the option, if they want to go to university, that they can.
Right. Okay. For people that doesn't get it yet, the difference between Hauptschule, Realschule, and Gymnasium.
Yeah, like it's you're until you're 10 roughly. You're at primary school, and then you divide like depending on how your teacher evaluate your performance. You either go to Gymnasium, that's the best level, then Realschule or Hauptschule, and I think especially also because of the language barrier, especially like migration, people with migration get to lower education grades, what's also seen as a problem often. So people currently thinking about how to think the education system through, because in Germany you have like you separate people like the fit the best to the best, the medium to medium, low to low. And many other European countries, as far as I know, think it differently. They think like everybody should help each other. So you have a big group so that the low performer gets helped by the high performer, and the high performer creates new skills by helping the lower. But it's a different way of thinking. And we still have the separation, but I don't know how long this will be still in such a way.
Okay. In Indonesia, it was primary school until I was in the 6th grade. And then it was junior high, 3 years. So until I was in 9th grade. And then high school started from 10th until 12th grade. And then when I got here to Germany, I had to do like a year of college, basically, because I think the old ways was 13 years of high school.
When I went to school as well, it was 13 years. And like if you go to Realschule, you can then do a test and apply for going to the Gymnasium again, because the Realschule ends when you're 16, and Gymnasium still has then 3 more years when you're then qualifying for going to university and stuff like this.
Right. And for me in high school, it was separated. So the 10th grade, it was just normal. And then from the 11th grade onwards, you have to choose between 3 subjects, basically. So do you want to do science, you want to do social, or you want to do language? And since, in a way, should be all the same, right? But in Indonesia, the science group was always considered to be the it group, because you have a brighter future, basically, in science. The social are more the middle part, and if you took language course, you're basically fucked. But right, that's the image, but that's actually not the reality. But then again, I was fed into this idea, so I obviously didn't want to go to the language course, and somehow my school disregarded the language course whatsoever. So it's just either science or social. And the thing about the science and social thing is, if you chose science in high school, you basically can choose anything to study. Any subject is game for you. But if you choose social, you can't study science things like biology, for example. You can only do a social, like economy or business and whatnot. But if you're from science, you can do anything. So it leaves me with more options. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna aim for science, and let's see what happened. And that was the biggest mistake. It's always better to be the bigger fish in a small pond than the small fish in a big pond, especially because everything was ranked in Indonesia. I'm not sure how does it work with you guys. So my parents always ask, like, so what is his rank? So from 1 until 40. And if I'm not on the top 10, it's going to be a big problem. Bend over, get the belt. No, they didn't hit me. But basically, like, you have to try harder, or else you're gonna be a bum because you can't go into like the prestigious university and whatnot. Was it like that in the UK?
No.
So no ranks.
No ranking, because I think college is optional, and you can choose. You choose first 4 subjects, like to do your AS levels, so like 1 year. So it's whatever interests you. And actually my parents were quite good at thinking like, yeah, just do whatever you like more inclined to, like if you feel like it, then you could do it. So I did like photography, English language, English literature, and sociology. So actually nothing towards like a specific career or something.
Okay.
And then I remember you're just put in a class full of different people, different levels, and it's up to you how hard you want to study it, and then your teacher will help you if you want to have help. And then at the end of your first year, you decide which are 3 subjects you want to specialize in, because these are the ones that are going to help you get into university. And I remember going to actually my counselor and saying, hey, like, actually, I'm really interested in photography, but at that time I thought because I guess maybe the Asian influence of you have to go to a really good university was like, my mum basically was saying that I should go to Oxbridge, so either Oxford or Cambridge. And so then I thought, okay, maybe I want to study English. Went to my counselor and said, but I want to have photography as one of them. Okay. And then he turned around just like in silence and looked at me and then was like, do you really think Oxbridge is going to care about like photography?
Wow.
And I was like, yes, you're right. And he's like, he's like, but if you really want to do photography, then you could do it as a 4th subject and you just have to do more.
Right.
And I was like, well, no, because then I just look like a loser in my friendship group, like studying all the time. So, yeah, I mean, it's in some ways it's dependent on you then how you want to be like ranked in your college.
Right.
Yeah.
And now we're speaking about college and university. I assume we have the same experience because I did my university here in Berlin. It's almost for free. Yeah, the registration fee, right? There's a registration fee.
For me, it was different because I went to a private university.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like after school, I was like, okay, what do I want to study? Actually, I was not sure about it, and then a friend of my sister studied aviation management, and my sister was telling me about it, and I was like, oh, that sounds actually really cool. And so I went to the open campus day, and it looked great. Also, like the whole campus life, that was like a little, not like a castle, but it was like the town was a bit bigger. I think like 10,000 inhabitants, maybe, like something like this. Not a big town, but bigger than where I was from. So it was also only 2-hour drive from home. Okay. So really nice.
And the bus runs longer than 6.
I had a car like when I turned 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that's when you grow up on the village, you need a car when you turn 18.
Right.
Yeah, I could just drive there, and it was still like you had the connection to home. You could drive home whenever you wanted. And at that time, also the relation to my parents changed a bit, because before, like during school days, you kind of fight a lot because learning is not your highest
priority.
So yes, but then when you leave to university and it works out actually what you're doing there, and you come home, it's always like, oh yeah, it gets nice food, and you can take some stuff back to your place again.
Oh,
It's
nice,
like it was like really nice. But where I wanted to go, what I really liked about it was that it was completely in English. So before, and I really liked languages before. I started, like normally you start with English after you leave primary school, you learn English as first foreign language. I started with French, and it was great because I really like the language as well. But I was not super safe in English. I made the test. They took me in, and so I really improved my English during that time, and so that was really great. Also the study program, it was like a management study program, but always with aviation, and like airplanes is like a quite cool topic. I like them. So that, and you have like smaller classes. That's also really nice. So you have like max 25 people in the class. So you have big projects over a whole semester. You can really do much more than when you're sitting with 600 people in one class. I think. Like, at least that's how I feel.
And what about you? Did you manage to go to Oxbridge?
No, so actually in the end, after I finished college, when I was deciding like what I wanted to study in, I remember going to an open day at Cambridge, and I actually didn't like it at all. So I decided I didn't want to study English literature.
Okay.
And then I I think I just went a bit rogue. I went really like off scale, and I was like looking at all the different courses, and I was like, oh, I really like the sound of social anthropology because I was really interested in like people and human interactions and this kind of stuff. And my mum was like, what can you do with social anthropology? And I was like, I don't know, like loads of stuff. So at first she really wasn't convinced.
Okay.
But she was like, look, fine, it's your life. If this is what you want to study, okay. So then I started applying. There's not many universities that actually do this subject. So actually I was quite limited. But luckily, the University of Edinburgh is one that offered it. And that's in the top 10 that ranked worldwide. So actually this pleases my parents. I'm like, hey, look, okay, maybe it's not the course that you want me to do, but at least the university is really highly ranked. So
they can say the name of the university at least to their neighbors and whatnot, right?
Exactly.
To the
like,
family.
Oh, look. Top 10.
Oh my gosh.
But actually, so the program there is you take your normal like degree topic, so social anthropology, plus you have to take elective courses. So my elective courses, you can choose between anything in the university. You just go to like this open day and you just hear information about everything. So I did sociology, psychology, and social policy. Then after I think at the end of my first year, I actually realized that social anthropology was not for me. It was a little bit too conceptual, and I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna do something else. So I switched my major. And actually, at that point, my mum also tried to get me to switch again. She was like, how about law? Like, law?
Of course.
I was like, no, like, really, stop trying to push me into the direction that... And she was like, okay, fine. But she was really glad, actually, that I moved away from social anthropology to... So then I majored in sociology and social policy.
Okay. So it was more flexible in her eye, in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah, with my parents, I had to also make some compromises because the aim is always like either you're a doctor or you're a lawyer. It's okay if you're an engineer, but the rest are like that's not even a job, you know. So and I've always been the creative one. My sister's always been the academical one, and I didn't want to. Like, none of these interest me in a way. No medicine, no law thing, no engineering. And then I got to Germany, and I had to make some compromises, or else my parents are not going to fund me anymore. So I was like, okay, you know what? Probably we can find something that could benefit everyone. I wanted to do something creative. My parents wants me to do something more engineering in a way. So I found out about packaging engineering because there's also a packaging design courses on it, and it still has engineering on the name. So at least they can proudly say, "Oh yeah, my son is a German engineer." But at the end, I'm not working in the packaging industry anyway. So I think they're still pushing the agenda, like, "Oh, they're Siemens are looking for people." I'm like, Mom. First of all, there's no packaging like job in Siemens right now, and second of all, I'm not interested. But yeah, they're still pushing the topic to me. Now we reach our last part. I would like to ask you if you have any funny story or interesting story that you can share with us when you were growing up. Like probably the worst punishment that you received from your parents, or the worst decision you made and it has effect until now, or just some silly things like the story where you broke a finger or something.
Okay, maybe I start.
Yes.
Yeah, I was quite young. If I have a funny story, yeah, it was the son of my neighbors and I. He was in the same age as I, so we were often playing outside on the fields and stuff.
Right.
So we had both like little tractors, like where you can sit on and you can ride around, and there was a little piece of forest close to our place. And some farmers were throwing chickens inside so the foxes can take them. And so it was often like very interesting for us to see if there's like a big dead chicken in the forest. So,
That's the best entertainment.
yeah, and so we are leaving our tractors like behind and
Right.
just went in the forest. And the mom of my friend saw the two tractors without us and thought we got kidnapped and called the police. And so we were just in the forest playing around, and suddenly like the police came and
Oh my God.
and wanted to take us. And like my friend, we were like 6 years old or something. He was like, I'm not allowed to go with foreigners in a car. And so he protested and walked home. And I was just like, I got to the police with the car. I was like, okay, drive home. So I wasn't allowed to leave the room until for the rest of the day.
I mean, you were young, you were 6, so
Yes.
if it's like when you were 15, that's a different case.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. What about you? Did you lead a very straight and
I would say I was quite well behaved. I guess until I was 16, but maybe let's not get into that.
scratch that?
No, I guess like as a kid, I was quite well behaved. Apart from like because my mum, she had like her punishments for us, but you know like how I don't know. My mum was very like she does everything in like private life. So at home we had a step where if you were naughty, you had to stand on the step. You had to hold your hands out, like palm facing up, and then your mum would like slap both of your hands,
Okay.
and then you were told to stay on the step for like 5 to 10 minutes, when everybody else is just walking around you. You're just like,
Oh my God.
like why? Like my mum's like, stop it, like go talk to her, like she's being punished. And it wasn't actually till I was much older that my mum told me, she was like, actually it really hurt my hands too, but I didn't
Yeah.
want to like spank you, so this is the only option that we could do.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. But then, you know, like when you're out, when you're like in public, if you're doing something naughty, she'd like tell you off, and then she'd whisper like, you just wait until we get home. And you're like, oh God. And I was like, no, please, like I'll be good now. She's like, too late.
Yeah, sometimes my parents does that as well, especially my mom. And then she made everything purposely slower. So she walks slower because the suspense is going to kill you. Because, wait until we get home. And then everything is slower. And sometimes she grabbed like the inside of my hand and just pinched it. Because no one will see that like from the outside, right?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, ow. And she's like, what's wrong? Stop making a scene. Oh my gosh.
No.
The story that I'm going to tell you was the story that I wanted to tell you before recording, how I grew up in a brothel. So I already told this story to the Indonesian friends and Indonesian podcast. Basically, I had this friend, a really good friend of mine, and we've been friends since we were in the 4th grade. And we did everything together. And one day we were talking to the bad boys in school, and they started saying like, you know, there's a brothel close to the school, right? And we're like, what, really? Where? Yeah, we're not sure, but it should be around here somewhere. And I was like, I've never heard of it, because my house is like 5 minutes away from the school. And you ask around, we're going to ask around, and then let's update. And then somehow they asked the security people, because the school is inside of a gated community, basically. So they asked the security, and the security told them, like, they updated, hey, we got a new information. It's on this street. And I'm like, hold on, that's my street. And then they said, okay, do you know the house number this? And then I'm like, yeah, that's my house, but that can't be right, because that's my house. And they're like, oh, yeah, it must be wrong. And then you ask around again. But I was already like, okay, that's weird. And then I start talking to my mom, like, Mom, some friends at school told me that there's a brothel around here somewhere. And she's like, what, really? Yeah, that's weird. Okay. And then my mom somehow asked my mate. But the thing is, I wasn't there. I wasn't there when the conversation started. So I just received this information from my mom. Basically, my mom said, yeah, I asked her. Adrian said that his friends told him that there's a brothel here somewhere. And the maid started freaking out, like, what are you saying? Are you accusing me of stuff? And blah, blah, blah. And my mom was like, whoa, 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 whoa. What's with all this? And then she's like, I feel offended that you asked me this. You're accusing me of things. And then I got into the kitchen because I heard of this commotion and like, what's going on? And the maid said, like, well, your mom accused me of running a brothel. And I'm like, well, I didn't say that. I just asked that there's a brothel here somewhere if she knows something. And then she left with her daughter. So the background is the daughter just finished high school. So the maid came from a small village somewhere in central Java. And the daughter, after high school, she moved to our place because in Jakarta you have more options, better work and whatnot, right? So the daughter and the maid left our place and we were all dumbfounded, like, what just happened? We just wanted to ask. And then, you know what, whatever, let's just leave it at that. And then my mom decided to take a week off to basically take care of the house. And one day she was in the front of our place and saw one of the neighbors and she's like, oh, you're home. Oh, yeah, I took a week off. The maid is not here. So, yeah. And the neighbor was like, oh, so you found out. And mom was like, found out what? And the neighbor was like, oh, no. You know what? It's fine. Don't worry. It's just like, no, please tell me what's happening. And the neighbor kept on resisting. The neighbor is like a 70-year-old grandma. So my mom kept on pushing and she's like, you know what? Okay, whatever. So I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard about the rumor that there's a brothel here, around here somewhere. And I noticed that random guys kept on coming in and out of your place. And my mom was like, okay, you know what? No, that can't be true. Yeah, but both of you are working from like early in the morning from like 6 or 7 until 7 at night again. So, and the children are away from 7 as well around until like 4 or 5. So the maid has all the time in the world at home. But then again, the the neighbors are they saw that something is happening, but they don't have the proof yet because guys are just coming in and out. In the beginning, they thought that we're building something, but it's been going on for like 5 years.
No way!
The business is booming. Oh my God. So also another background story that I forgot to mention. Like my mom, she has tendencies to always complain about something. And since this 5 years, she kept on complaining, like, I smell man sweat. And there are only 2 men in the house, me and my dad. And we're both like, but we just showered. What do you mean? And she's like, no, it's like manly testosterone, sweat. And my dad's like, where? It's everywhere. And we're like, oh, it's just one of mom's episodes. She's just making this up because I didn't smell anything. And then we found out that, okay, it's actually true. So the mom and the daughter, they're running this prostitution ring, basically, both of them. And they did it everywhere, in our beds, on the sofa. Even we had a mango tree in the backyard, and they did it there as well. How did we find out? Because we went to her room, and we found out that there's like a corner where she left some things off. And then we opened it, and it's like pictures and VCDs of her. So she was a business lady.
Oh my God.
Not only that she took the customers in, they took pictures, they took videos. Oh. So it's a full-blown porn production. Oh my God. Oh gosh.
So great.
I bet the school teacher was like, oh God, first it's just selling food at school. Next.
Porn.
It's a slippery slope.
Oh my God.
berdua with Adrian. Podcast Perawan, podcast berdua with Adrian. Podcast Perawan, podcast berdua with Adrian. Podcast Perawan, podcast berdua with